Hey everyone, and welcome to the Steaming Pile of Awesome, the podcast where I, Rob, and my good friend Darren watch shitty movies so you don't have to. You may notice that this is the beginning of the episode. It's going to look a little different than the rest of the episode, and that is because, well, Darren and I, we like to film these a couple of weeks ahead, but it just so happened that we had something special to share with you, didn't we, Darren?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So you got something in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since this episode 12, They Live, today will be available on Christmas. It's just the way it worked out. Christmas Day was the day. So you know what a perfect opportunity to get you a little something just for putting up with me and my long-windedness over the last 12 episodes. So why don't you...
I got to say, I'm actually... super psyched for this episode because I had a ton of fun filming it. Had a ton of fun watching it. Had a ton of fun talking about it afterwards. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, man. You will laugh your butt off it. Yeah. I've enjoyed editing it too, so I had the pleasure of editing it. So why don't you go ahead? Open up your prize. Open your prize.
Well, it's a movie.
Yes.
You can tell that right off the hop.
Yeah.
What do we have?
What to get a man who has almost every movie but a movie.
Oh my word. This is the Velocipaster on DVD.
Yes.
That's right, folks. People still buy these. I love how good they make the Velociraptor look on the...
Yes, how it looks, and absolutely nothing like that in the
possibly
film.
Ever get a side-by-side of what this looks like versus what the actual Velocipaster looks
very easy to do. I will have that done. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited. This is a great gift.
You've seen it, and you can't unsee it, and
nor would I want to.
Right, it belongs in your collection, my friend, and I'd be happy to be the guy that gave it to you.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Merry Christmas, Rob.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Wonderful.
Yeah, man. I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy They Live.
Yeah. Oh, again, yes.
This week, Darren, we have the 1988 film John Carpenter's They Live. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned to me before we hit start here that you'd had seen this before. Do you recall how you'd seen it or how long ago? Was it actually 1988? Or?
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't see it in 1988. I just remember seeing it. I have no idea how, to be completely honest. And I remember, like, as I was watching the movie, seeing the aliens and being like, oh yeah, I recognize the aliens. I recognize this. I recognize this.
They have a very distinct face.
The very last scene is actually what rang true to me because as a teenage boy, that very last scene of the lady finding out that she was having sex with an alien with her boobs out was
spoiler alert, by the way.
Teenage me was like, I've seen this one.
I have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Teenage Darren is like nudging you with his elbow. You're like, see, I told you we've seen this. You're like, okay, fine, we did.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So like we always do, Darren, I'm excited to do another episode of Would You Watch This? Okay. So here is my 2-minute rundown of the entire film. All right. A mullet-bathed drifter wanders into a town looking for an honest day's work and pay, but stumbles onto a local resistance group fighting oppression from a secret society. When law enforcement destroy the homeless base camp where Roddy was staying, the Piper Man takes matters into his own hands with the help of a box of pretty cool-looking sunglasses. What he soon discovers is that aliens are walking among us, hidden in plain sight, and they are leaving secret messages all around us to keep calm and chive on. Once discovered, the drifter launches a one-man assault on their kind the only way he knows how, chewing bubblegum and kicking ass. One of the asses he kicks is named Frank, played by Keith David, in a 4-hour street fight that is worth the price of admission and then some. These two bond over right hooks and knees to the crotch, making up and working in tandem to take down this strange signal that the aliens are using to mask their presence. They are successful, but they do not survive because they did not recognize Evil Lynn from He-Man and fell for her double cross. Yeah. The movie ends with the signal destroyed, all the aliens are exposed, and so are a pair of boobs. Darren, would you watch this?
Yes, absolutely. It sounds terrible.
No, it doesn't. I thought it did a great job. Man, this is one of those movies where it's like, honestly, we'll get to it at the end, but it's like one of those movies that's such a ridiculous premise, but it's executed so well that you just enjoy it anyway. I love that kind of stuff. That's why it fits on our podcast, I think. All right, so I've got it broken down into like 3 or 4 parts. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have to correct. It actually, when I'm watching this, I'm not actually seeing that ridiculous of a premise. What I am seeing is a bunch of conspiracy, like people today that are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I think they would actually gravitate towards this conspiracy theory of a bunch of aliens that are masked among us that hold all the keys. Yeah, like I think it's not. I think as far-fetched as it is, I think there's a lot of people that are like, this movie had it right in 1988.
And to say that, I completely agree with what you're saying, as ridiculous as you're making it sound. But I also agree with the other part where it's like, I do honestly believe that the political statements that are being made in this movie that's 30 years old now really do still ring true, if not so more now in the world than ever, which is really kind of like scary and sad, man. But I have this movie broken down into about 4 parts, and I just want to discuss each of them with you kind of on its own, and then we'll get into all the fun stuff near the end here. So
let's do it.
The first part of the movie, the opening credits, is this really cool fade in where like the credits are in the corner of the screen and it says "They Live," and it's in this kind of cool scratchy graffiti font, and it's just a jet black screen, and it just kind of fades in just gently, and then it actually fades out to be actual graffiti on a wall. I thought this thing was super cool, man. What'd you think? It was cool. I like it.
Yeah, it was a neat introduction to the movie. Gave it a definite urban vibe right off the hop. You knew where you were.
That's exactly right. I thought so too. Like, you knew exactly where this movie was happening. Yeah. Although I'm not sure what town it's in. Like, I don't know what city it is. I'm guessing sure Philly.
Oh no, I'm sure it's Los Angeles.
L.A. Okay.
Yeah. The reason I'm guessing L.A. is because the way the homeless were set up was very not insulated.
Right.
Not insulated structures. So
right.
Limits
Winter
the
in
kind
Philly
of places
would.
That you can.
Yeah.
Would kill.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Totally fair. All right. So we've got a drifter rolling into town, played by the late great WWE star Roddy Piper. And he's kind of just hopped off of a train and he's heading into town. He gets turned away at a local employment office because he's what he does for a living. I guess there's just nothing there for him right now. So he ends up hitting up a construction site for like cheap labor work. And this gives him an excuse to take off his shirt and shovel sand.
Yeah. Holy
man. Ladies and gentlemen, Roddy Piper. This might be the best he ever looked, man. He is absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
The guy knows what he's doing in the gym, eh?
Yeah, they definitely, He, I'd love to know how a 260-pound man stays so muscular while not eating and drifting from town to town on the back of a train. What is he eating? He just hops off and just, I'm just going to go grab this cow and like drag it back to the train and throws it on.
Raised chicken farms, maybe? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah.
It's like, I know this is free food and I'm really thankful that I'm at this soup kitchen, but do you guys have any salmon or tuna? Yeah. Like, I could do 16, I can crush 16 cans of tuna right now.
Do you have any lean protein for me?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's weird. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fine, fair enough. I was just so swept up in it, man. I was all right with it. So this is where he's introduced to Frank, played by one of the most infamous kind of B-movie and like action movie stars here of the 80s and 90s, and even now he's still getting work. This is Keith David. He's introduced to Frank, played by Keith David. Now, do you remember where you've seen Keith David before?
I had to check IMDb because he's just such a familiar face. Like I've seen the guy more than my dad.
Fair enough. Ooh.
And he is in absolutely every movie.
We've lost Gorgeous George.
Shh. You're going to have to repeat that.
We've lost Gorgeous George.
Like I spent a good 5 minutes scrolling through, just like, okay. So by the time I had scrolled for 5 minutes, I made it to 2018. So that's what he's done in the last 2 years.
Yes.
Gave her a good spin. And I found, to me, his most recognizable is just because he does so much voice work.
Yes,
that
he does.
He was one of the gargoyles. And as we talked about before the cast.
All of my kind are dead. And now, you two will join them.
One of only 3 actors that were on that show that were not from Star Trek The Next Generation.
So he stood right out for you. Yeah, actually, he's an incredible voice actor as well as like playing in live action films. So yeah, I actually remember him as well from a cartoon. I remember him mostly from The Princess and the Frog, one of my daughter's favorite Disney movies. He plays the bad guy in it, Dr. Facilier.
I got voodoo, I got hoodoo, I got things I ain't even tried. And I got friends on the other side.
So he does a great job at that too. And he's the reason why he's in this movie is because he was in The Thing. So he was in The Thing with John Carpenter, and John Carpenter loved his performance so much that he wrote this character into this movie just so he could have Keith David in another one of his films. So there you have it.
Yeah.
So Keith David's character, Frank, I'm just going to call him probably Keith David the entire time, or KD. But he takes pipes to like a squatter village where poor and homeless people kind of live, because neither of them have like a place to stay. And he kind of introduces them to everybody in the camp, and they get some food, and they sit down and watch like a small TV. And this is something I wanted to talk to you about, Darren, because you're first of all, you have to like warn me before you say self-deprecating jokes like that again, because like I'm still having trouble keeping a straight face.
Getting past it.
Oh, I can't do it. But like, there's this commercial while they're watching TV for like this lady's press on nails, and like she's like crushing this plate of cubed cheese. And she like, and I know you love cheese, like you're like a cheese connoisseur. So like, have you ever in your life taken your index finger, stabbed a block of cheese with your finger, and then shoveled it into your mouth like a javelin?
I can't say I have, but that made me want to start growing out my fingernails. I just can't imagine, like, so you have to have, and this is exactly what went through my mind, was like, you have to have a certain length of fingernail to get the cheese onto it, right? Like, it has to be a good,
there's a minimum
3/4 of an inch, let's say. Right?
Okay,
like
I'll give you that. I would think so.
How much disgusting shit is underneath your fingernail at that length? And she's like,
book,
right into the trap, and I was like,
that's literally the noise it made. Oh no, don't do that again.
Oh, it was so gross.
So gross.
Yes.
Literally the 2 words in my
And
mouth.
I gotta ask, while we're on the topic of this commercial, what is the TV plugged into?
I don't know. Running on solar power?
Yeah, they're running a TV antenna, like the clunky change the channels with an antenna. And
it's powered by hopes
solar
and dreams. Yeah, it's powered by hopes and dreams, man.
Yeah.
So there's this nearby church. It provides them meals and old pipes here. He notices that it's running up it's hopping, kind of late at night. There's lots of lights on. There's lots of sound coming out of it. People are going in and out. Mm-hmm. And that night a little earlier, he noticed that the TV was kind of on the fritz, and there was this hacker that came on and did this little propaganda speech about how like we're being controlled by this unknown presence. So So these two things are kind of fishy. And old Roddy Piper, he's all over. We would call him by his name, but he like literally doesn't have one in the movie. Like his character is never mentioned by name in the entire movie. His name is Nada in the credits, but they never say that.
I think that's actually just saying like nada. Like he doesn't have a name.
Like none in Spanish. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think you hit it right on the head. So the next morning he sneaks in, and the only reason I bring this up is because written on the wall of the church inside their like this little resistance base is the saying, "They live, we sleep." So of course that's where the movie's title comes from, and I think that's important maybe. So I figured I'd mention it, but. He's kind of in there chilling out, and he's just really interested in what these guys are up to, because they're definitely up to something. There's helicopters flying all around, and like they're definitely up to something. So there's this kid who, like, I guess he's supposed to be like 15 or 16, but he looks like 25. He's got these binoculars. And he's just kind of chilling. And like Keith David notices that Piper is over there kind of sweet talking this kid. And he ends up like borrowing his binocs so he can like spy a little bit closer on this resistance church. So he's like sitting on this concrete wall and he's just chilling out all day watching these guys to kind of figure out what they're doing. And Keith David comes over and he kind of asks him like, what's up? And they have this little conversation, but I was totally distracted because I could not even listen to what they were saying because Keith David did like a crazy Riker lean. Anybody who's like fans of Star Trek, like there's this one guy who like puts his foot up on everything. Yeah. So he like Keith David puts his foot up on this probably 3 foot like concrete wall and does this full on lunge to one side.
Like, super high.
Super high, super stretched. His balls are right in Roddy Piper's face as he's like binocularing a church. It is just the craziest scene. I don't even know what to ask you. Did you notice this? I guess
I did notice. I did notice that he had to step up quite high to get that.
He looked like a sprinter getting stretched out for a race, is what I thought.
What I kept laughing about in this in the back and forth between them was like Keith David is just telling Roddy Piper that he doesn't want to know what he's doing. He's like, I keep to myself, and he's like, but you literally walked all the way over here.
You came over here to tell me you keep to yourself.
And why are your balls in my face?
Yeah, what's going on here? As I said, Fred, I keep to myself, and you should too.
I keep to myself.
Don't look over here. There's nothing to see over here. Don't mind the bulge. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say about this. This is great. It's a nice moment of levity, and it gets real serious after this, man. So let's talk this part out. That night, the cops do like this complete raid of the camp, and they bring their A game, man. They bring helicopters, they bring SWAT vans, they bring riot shields, and they bring a bulldozer, and they just completely level this entire thing, and people are running for their lives, and everyone's screaming and scared, and seemed like a major overkill moment. So what were your thoughts during this part, man? Talk me through it.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, the cops did like no proper protocol whatsoever. They just went in there, guns a-blazing. It was like, it was just a mess. It was a disaster. And then what I also noticed was that the cops were super disorganized. Like they all had riot shields. Right. They were like a good 3 or 4 feet between each person. And then some people they were letting run through, and then others they were like hitting with their shields.
Some bounced off, some were trampled. Yeah.
And then like a couple of the people took like 2 or 3 runs at the shield, and but they weren't trying to just like step around. It was just really bizarre. It was very oddly slapped together, this raid. Yeah. And then they must have spent all night with that bulldozer, because when they come back the next morning, everything is gone. Like it's literally just a sand pit with some clothes.
Yeah. There's some clothes on the ground and like a pot, and then everything else is just gone. So they heaped everything up. It's tough to watch, man, because like it's like these people are kind of down on their luck, and law enforcement has come through and just taken and I mean, with stuff that has happened this year, dude, this was particularly hard for me to watch. So if you did watch this because you knew we were doing it next, I apologize if it struck anyone's nerves, man, because it was pretty tough for me to watch, and I'm in a real safe place.
I had in my notes that it looked as if they were peacefully protesting for civil rights. And the cops were like, not here.
Not here, you can't.
Get the bulldozer.
Yeah, that's right. It was like, ridiculous. Yeah, they were just chilling. So, yeah, it's interesting. But, I mean, it's tough to watch. And I was kind of feeling some feelings at that moment, but they were quickly doused. And I was back to reality when I got to see the cops had pulled over these two guys in the resistance. There's this blind, very, very energetic preacher who we meet a couple of times up to this point, and he's obviously in the resistance, and he's had a couple run-ins with Pipes. So we've known this character a little bit, and the other guy is the dude that's on the TV doing the broadcast. So we've got this bearded dude who's doing these broadcasts. So they've caught these two guys, and they're kind of like attacking them in a corner. But this is like one of my favorite scenes of the movie, because the cop is feeding this bearded guy some shots, and all of these punches are probably the weakest punches ever like recorded in film history. They are like super soft. They're just barely like making contact with this guy, and they are in full frame, not hidden at all. It's kind of like when you're goofing around with your like little cousin or something, and you're like, just barely touching them. Darren, I've seen you in a fist fight, and these punches, I have to say, are maybe even weaker than yours. What do you think?
That's so.
This is the one place I didn't want to be, in his debt. Which now means I'm in his pocket.
Wow.
They might be.
First of all, how dare you? What I noticed was the bearded gentleman who was on the broadcast. He took 3 straight up nightstick shots, and he's just like, ow, ow.
There's a lot of underselling of nightsticks in this movie. He's not the only one.
They keep swinging at him. And then they pan over to the priest, and he takes a good 3 or 4 shots to the gut, and then finally starts to bend over. And you're like, okay, well, obviously they're going to beat these guys to death. Like, just shoot them at this point.
They're done. Yeah, exactly. So. Well, maybe they won't beat them to death with how weak those shots are.
Maybe, who knows? Yeah.
It's like, you hurt my shirt. Yeah, okay. So Pipes gets away. He manages to save the kid that loaned him his binoculars, and they get away and hide out in a building for a little while. And when he goes back in the morning to check out kind of the damage, he sneaks back into the church. So the church has been burned. It's been ransacked. There's really nothing left. The resistance camp is completely destroyed. And there's no one. There's absolutely no one. It's a ghost town. So he had found a secret compartment in the wall the previous time he was in there. And he goes back to kind of check it out. And he finds this like cardboard box. There's just nothing on it. It's just this completely just brown cardboard box, just sealed up, and he thinks, well, this has got to be important. I got to take this. So he snakes that, and he goes into like a quiet alley to open it up to find out what's so important, what made the cops come and raid and bulldoze the entire camp and destroy the church. Darren, you want to enlighten us? What is in the box, my friend?
Knockoff Ray-Bans.
Name dropping already, aren't you?
$10 a pair on the beach in Mexico.
Yeah, they look. Yeah, that's exactly right. $10 a pair, authentic. Yeah, they're black sunglasses.
Hola, senor, you need sunglasses?
Yeah. So that's, and the rest of the movie is him selling them on the corner, and making enough money to leave. Yeah, that's it. No. These are magic sunglasses, Darren. Or at least chemistry, maybe. Like they have a scene earlier where he goes into the church and they have like a bunch of beakers set up on a table. So that's enough to be like, oh, these are chemistry sunglasses.
It's 2020 now, though, Rob. So we know that chemistry and magic are one and the same.
Yes,
science,
that's right.
Science in general and magic are.
Oh, tell me how you really feel, buddy. Oh, we shouldn't make fun. It's a sad time, but
Yeah.
for sure. Now we got this box of sunglasses. He decides, what the heck? I mean, this isn't what I expected. I'll throw them on and see. And we get this kind of cool effect where he puts them on, and the whole world goes from full color film to black and white. And he sees that the world is a much different place with the shades on. So, so help me out with this because I might forget some things. But basically, when he puts the shades on, there's all these subliminal messages behind all the media, all the commercial boards, the billboards. There's he walks past a magazine rack with a bunch of newspapers and magazines and books. But basically, any printed surface also has a subliminal message that's obviously very oppressive and brainwashing. And some of these, I wrote down some of these, just kind of the importance, just to give people who aren't going to watch the movie just an idea of what they were. But the first one I noticed, of course, and I'm sure it stood out to you, was obey, because I mean, that's a pretty common merchandising platform now. Thanks to this movie, I researched. That's where he got the idea from. And so there's obey, marry and reproduce, stay asleep, consume, no independent thought, and my personal favorite, written on money, this is your God. How do you feel about that, buddy?
They were all interesting and very accurate. And everything I found it was on when he flipped through the magazine real quick, it was on every single page, which was kind of unique. And everything, again, like you said, was in black and white, so it stood out especially. I think that was a really
bold print.
Yeah, and when he put on the sunglasses after a few times and looked down the street, it was on every billboard and every bus ad and all the magazines. Basically anywhere there was a printed surface that had it. Yeah. Which is it'd be even more interesting, I think, to see this in 2020 when you have video screens and you can, because I don't think a subliminal print message works anymore. I don't know if there's actual science behind that.
Oh no,
but
definitely
but definitely a video board like we have now would, right? Or the heads-up display, or your phone, or
right.
So it was.
So you're
cool
saying you want a reboot of this so we can cover it on one of our episodes? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That would be good.
Trying to think of which WWE superstar would be good in this.
It would have to be. It would have to be a WWE superstar for sure.
And it would have to be one with absolutely no good acting. Let's go with Sheamus.
Nice. Sheamus. I was going John Cena, but I think I could get on board with Sheamus. I could definitely do that. Yeah. Just not Randy Orton.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So they have all of these moments where there's all this subliminal messaging going on, and something that I thought was kind of funny was not only do the sunglasses help you see the messages, but it also helps Roddy Piper hear them, because they're also announcing over a giant intercom for us to sleep. Which is those are really good sunglasses. And of course, in this moment, he comes across probably the most important scene up to this point. He discovers his first alien. A gentleman walks into the frame, looks at him and says,
"What's your problem?"
Let's take a minute and just describe the aliens here, because they are very unique. I mean, shoestring budget, but they look kind of interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, they look like they've been exposed to a lot of radioactivity. So their skin's just kind of melted off, and you can see holes in their cheek. Their eyes are very large.
Yes, buggy, large eyes.
Yeah, it was just no doubt this was a very classic alien image, right?
Yeah, and kind of scully. They had skull-like heads.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so to me, the creepiest part about them that we didn't mention yet is they don't have an upper lip. It's just gums and teeth. And I was like, ooh, that's the eyeballs are gross, but the teeth, no top. I didn't realize how much I appreciate top lips until I watched They Live.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who has top lips. That's very nice of you. Okay, so there's a bunch of these things. They're all over the place, and he started to notice that it's almost like a 50-50 ratio. There's one really creepy one in a hair salon, and she's doing her hair, and it's brushing this skull full of like weird hair. And there's some like in like those like old lady things where they dry their hair in the salon, and they're all over the place. So he ends up kind of a little overwhelmed, and he backs himself into like a little shop, and he like starts noticing all of the different ones that are in that shop, and this sweet old lady bumps into him and says sorry, and he looks at her and she looks at him, and he notices that she's another one of these aliens. And at this point he does something that I really was confused. I was like, why would you do this, man? Like, he completely lets it be known to everyone in the room that he can see the alien faces. Yeah. And he completely sells himself out. At this point, he has all the advantage. He knows they exist. They don't know he can see them. And he just blows it just because he wants to say a few one-liners.
You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly.
Oh. Yeah.
Come on,
gets in a few shots. Yeah. Yeah, it was very poorly executed. He just starts basically yelling at how ugly she is. And it doesn't get better. He exits the store and then walks outside, and there's a lady doing her makeup in the reflection of some glass. And he's like, well, that's like putting lipstick on a pig. Yeah. Just super offensive.
Are you kidding me? Come on, Pipes. You're giving it away, man. You had an advantage. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of, I didn't mention that. I carefully avoided that because that is one of your quotes at the end here. That's one of my favorite quotes. During this scene, two things happen of interest. Number one, the lady speaks into her wristwatch and tells some master command that we have a human that can see them. So that's a major issue because now he's completely sold out to whoever is controlling these things. And another thing that happens before he leaves, that he actually like trips on like a display case and falls down. So I was like, oh, he's really struggling here to kind of get stuff together. So as he's trying to run, he gets cornered by these two cops. And he looks at them through the sunglasses, and they're both aliens. And the one basically says like, this can go either way. You can come quietly with us and we can sort this out. And maybe we both benefit from this. Or, the other way where we splatter your guts all over the road. And of course, old Pipes here, Roddy Piper's not going to go quietly into that dark night. So
no, he certainly won't.
He starts the fight with a short arm clothesline to the first guy. Yeah. And takes them both out with a series of shots. And in the process gets one of the guns away from the first cop. So he stands up and he takes out the gun, and they end up catching him monologuing. He's like telling him what he's going to do. And the other one comes up from behind him and hits him with a nightstick. And of course he goes exactly like the other guy. Ow! And that's the end of it. But he takes them both out and murders them. Yeah. He grabs the shotgun out of the car, and he runs into the first building he can to get cover and get away from the obvious danger. And what is this building, buddy? What did he run? He ran into a bank. Yeah. So he's got dark sunglasses. Yeah. Fully armed with a shotgun. And he totally looks like he is going to rob the bank. Roddy Piper gives the infamous line.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Which makes no sense. It would have made so much more sense to be like, I'm not here to rob this bank.
I can agree with you in theory.
Or just leave. Just walk out the door that you just
Sorry,
and be like,
wrong
I
bank.
didn't realize this was a bank. I look like a bank robber. I'm going to go this way.
I am just a gun/Ray-Ban enthusiast.
Does anyone want to buy $10 Ray-Bans?
I have an entire box in a garbage can 3 blocks from here.
I know you have money. You're at a bank.
Yeah. So he murders a bunch of aliens in this scene. He takes them out with a shotgun from, 30 feet away, just plasters them. One of them is talking into the little wristwatch again, and he catches them mid talk, and he says another great line, "Mama don't like no tattletales."
Yeah.
On his way out, though, he catches a human cop, and the human cop is caught dead to rights with his pants down. doesn't have his gun out, nothing, and basically he lets him go, lets him run away. So he's only killing aliens now. He's only killing aliens. So this is where we cut to Meg Foster's first appearance in the movie. And of course, I spoiled it in the beginning. What do you know Meg Foster from, my friend?
I don't know if she's been in anything other than Masters of the Universe as Evil Lynn.
Evil Lynn. And if you know something else she's in, you're more of a Meg Foster fan than the two of us. But that's for us, that's all you need, man. That's all you need. So he hides out in this parking garage and catches her coming off of work and jumps into her backseat and basically holds her hostage so he can find a place to quietly lay low while his murder spree gets put on every single news station. So she's obviously scared, but she complies and she takes him back to her place so he can kind of hide out. But we find out here, and I think you might have mentioned something about this a little bit earlier, but he's been putting the glasses on and taking the glasses off. But this is where it's explained that it's actually wearing on him a little bit. It's actually hard on you to wear the glasses for a long period of time. So he gets a headache. He's extremely tired. And his quote here is like, you feel like you're high when you're wearing them, but you come down hard. So she's kind of like watching him as he's almost passing out on the couch, and she mixes herself a drink. You want to talk me through what happens next here? Because this is amazing.
She walks over to the window, and he follows her to the window. I can't remember what he says at that point, but
she mentions that she works for a news station, a TV station, and he gets excited because that could be a way he could broadcast about what's happening to the world, kind of thing. And he's so excited that she catches him off guard with a spinning back fist loaded with like what I think is a wine bottle. Yeah. And it smashes on the back of his head and he goes right through the window.
They're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
So he is falling from what I can only imagine either a second or third floor of her apartment. Yeah. And lands flat on the ground on this steep Los Angeles hill. And he tumbles from this fall to her driveway while she obviously calls the cops because he tries to explain it to her, what's happening. And he sounds like a complete nut job. So it's pretty obvious that she's not going to be buying what he's selling. Yeah. So she's calling the police. So, can we both agree that this fall, if it wouldn't kill him, would at least break both his legs and leave him severely injured?
Yeah, they definitely sold that as a much higher fall than would be survivable.
It was two or three stories.
I also like that. So she hits him with the wine bottle and then throws him through the window.
Yes.
So she grabs him and throws him through the window.
I'm trying to think of carried him through.
No, and I'm trying to think of how strong she must be to grab a 260-pound man and throw him through a plate glass window. When in actuality, it probably would have just went she shoved him a little bit and he would have went boom off the glass.
Donk. Ow!
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now nice my front and my back are really sore.
Oh, dang it. So but he does survive the fall and he manages to escape. So good for him.
What doesn't survive the fall?
Everyone.
Good for everyone involved. That's right. Yeah. But what doesn't survive the fall, Darren, is his sunglasses because they are knocked clean off of his head and are still sitting on her carpet at that point, and that's important for a little bit. So Pipes is selling this pretty hard. He is limping, and he's doing a pretty good job considering he should be much more hurt. I think he does a good job of selling it at least. Mm-hmm. So he's got nowhere to go. He's hiding from the cops. He decides to hit back Frank up at the construction site, but old KD here, he watches the news, so he's not too keen on staying friends with a mass murderer. So he basically asks them politely to get out of here. Yeah. So Piper goes back to the alley to get a new pair of sunglasses because he left his other ones back at Holly's. And this is where business starts to pick up. So he's followed by Keith David. Keith David, because he's just a nice guy, decided to get Pipes his week-long salary that he probably earned at the construction site and gives him this this package of money saying like, take this money, lay low, get out of here, keep running because they're coming for you. And which, you know, Roddy Piper's response to that is not thank you, you're a good friend. It's put on my sunglasses. I'm not telling you why. Please put these on. I insist. Which of course, it like every normal human being would, Keith David responds to that request with a right jab to the nose.
Yep. It's the only viable response at this point.
I totally am on Keith David's side at this point during the fight. So this fight, which we could talk about if you let me for an hour, it's special. It is something special. So, okay, it seems like a really long fight. It's about 7 minutes of runtime. Right. When you actually track the fight itself, it's 5 minutes and 20 seconds of choreography, but there's these pauses where they catch their breath in the middle. So it's like it's almost 7 minutes long, which for a fight scene in a movie is days. Yeah. It is amazingly long. So here's what I want to do. Go ahead.
Basically, like it's like watching Rocky 2.
Yes,
like they're just
the entire fight. They are.
And if you need to know how long this movie is, or how long this fight scene is, I can sum it up in one sentence.
Yes.
Keith David knees Roddy Piper in the nuts 5 times. He lays on top of him and he just drills him. And he goes, oh!
Consecutively.
And he drills him. And then he drills him. And then he drills him.
He just keeps
hammering his nuts.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's your favorite part of the fight.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Okay, good.
You're talking to a guy who on secret missions in SOCOM back in 2002 would only target nuts.
Yes.
It was a dirty assassin.
We used to play several of those WWE wrestling games back in the day in college, and I distinctly remember you constantly doing the low blow move. As soon as you learned it, that was all you needed. Okay, I'm with you. I know what kind of a man you are, Darren. I know what kind of a man you are.
Shattered dreams, baby.
Oh.
Don't do it, not to the big guy. Oh, look. No! Oh,
my God. Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to do this as fast as I can, but I do want to go through the highlights of the fight just for people who aren't going to ever watch this wonderful movie. And I want you just to give me like what are your favorite pieces of this, okay? Which we already know what your favorite is, but come on, hit me with the highlights, I guess. Maybe even the top 3. So here's the fight breakdown. So Pipes has gotten a shot to the nose from Keith David. He retaliates, and his combo puts Keith David headfirst into a dumpster. So KD doesn't like this, and he gets up pretty angry, and he yells, and he kicks his own backpack, which he brought, which I thought was awesome. He gets so mad, he kicks his own backpack. So he gives him his own combo, which puts Piper down on the ground. And at this point, he offers him his hand. Piper gets picked back up by KD, who immediately knocks him down again. At this point, Pipes is he's getting a little desperate. So he goes for a ball shot, but he gets caught, and this enrages Keith David. So he's really upset, but he kind of gets put off place here, and Pipes scores 2 nasty headbutts at this point, and that puts them both on the ground. And this is where the infamous 5 unanswered knees to the crotch occur.
He doesn't even close his legs.
No,
he just takes them.
Absolutely Shatnered at this point. He is like frozen in pain. And this kind of puts Keith David up, I think, on the score chart for who might win the fight at this point. So they roll around on the ground and they're tussling. And in the process of this, they both find weapons. So Pipes picks up a 2x4 and KD's got the beer bottle. So Piper takes a swing at him, and Keith David ducks, and it smashes out a back window of the car he's leaning against, in which Roddy Piper immediately says, "Ooh, sorry," when he realizes, like, I'm going a little too far here, son. this guy just gets Keith David even madder, and he smashes the bottle on the same window. And then they get into this big tussle again, where Keith David beats the absolute tar out of Roddy Piper. And at this point, the obvious winner in the fight is Keith David. Piper cannot answer the 10 count, but he does manage, after about 40 seconds, to get up and continue the fight, which keeps going at this point. He gets Keith David in a corner, and he gives him a couple of really good shots, and he finishes the fight with a gut wrench suplex. He wraps around his belly and flips him over his head onto the concrete ground. And that is the end of Keith David. The fight is over. And at this point, he gets the sunglasses and puts them on in victory. Keith David is now wearing the sunglasses. So what are your thoughts on that, man? That's quite a journey. But other than the knees to the groin, what are your favorites?
My 3 highlights of that fight were KD picking up Roddy Piper and immediately smacking him to the ground. Because as he's doing it, I believe he says, "Leave me alone." So instead of walking away from this guy, he picks him up. He's like, okay, leave me alone. So it's very reminiscent of the conversation
of previous,
came across the.
Listen, man, I'm a loner.
Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. So and then obviously the shots to the nuts were just fantastic.
Oh, they were solid gold.
When Roddy Piper smashes out after beating the tar out of each other, he hits an inanimate object which neither of them own.
No.
And then he apologizes. Which makes
I'm so sorry.
Oh, geez, sorry about that other person's window.
Well, I just think he was in the heat of the moment, he ended up getting so angry at Keith David. He's like, I'm going to kill this man with this 2x4. And then once he smashed the window, it woke him up. And he's like, oh, no, I actually like this guy. We're just having a good old-fashioned fist fight. We're just settling this with our knucks. So he's like, sorry, it went a little far.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where one of the best, worst lines in the movie comes, because at this point they're both just absolutely hammered on. They're in rough shape, and Keith David is noticing that the world with the sunglasses on is a much different place.
Yeah,
and to help him contemplate what he's actually experiencing, Roddy Piper's advice at that point is, life's a bitch and she's back in heat. Unpack this for me. I'm confused.
I have no idea what that was supposed to mean at all. It made no sense. So
it'll make sense in the research section I did of this movie. But yes, okay. All right. So life's a bitch and she's back in heat. So these two guys go back to a hotel room together and kind of nurse their wounds, and they drink a beer, and they're trying to come up with a plan. And at this point, they're haggard. They are absolutely beat up. And I loved the face damage that they got in this scene, because after a little while of them talking, their faces are getting really swollen. They've got black eyes and busted lips, and whoever did the face damage makeup it was really good. I really enjoyed the attention to detail there. So they're coming up with this plan. What are we going to do? The world is a big place, and we're only 2 guys who know this, and we're kind of all alone on it. And Piper goes into this little story about running away at 13, and that his dad was a real crappy dad, and basically kind of giving just a little bit of backstory for his guy, giving a little depth. And basically he's saying, I'm all grown up now and I'm not running away. We're going to face this head on. And that's what they do, man. This is the last part of the movie, the final showdown. They run into a guy who was a part of the resistance before, and he, the plot needed him to be there, so he just happened to catch Keith David grabbing some groceries. So he meets up with them and invites them to this meeting of the resistance, but it's not nearly what it was before. It's pretty hurting at this point. But there is a new addition to their resistance movement. Did you happen to catch who it was, Darren?
You mean Evelyn?
Evelyn. Yes, Holly.
Yeah.
Holly, Pipes notices Holly in the crowd, and they have a reunion. So she apologizes for doubting him. They have this really awesome little reunion where you actually feel like they do actually care for each other, at least in some degree. And an amazing thing happens next. She is mid-sentence, and they are just kind of sharing their last couple of days with each other. And there is a massive explosion that blows a wall apart. It like reminded me a lot of The Dark Knight, you know, like with a scene where Rachel gets blown up and she's like mid-sentence telling like Batman how everything's going to be okay, or telling Harvey, she's just like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's kaboom. And it's just like, whoa, man, business picks up, man. This is a Paul Verhoeven level blood pack scene where everybody's getting shot up and blood is splattering everywhere, man.
And it's funny that you bring up Paul Verhoeven, because to me it reminded me of the Total Recall scene when the Cohagen's guys bust in on the mutant resistance, and then the wall gets cleared out by that drill, and then all of the cops come in and start icing everybody, right?
Just starting taking everybody out in the bar.
I also, in this scene, the amount of time that guys were taking to like pull out their guns was like, we're a minute into the scene, and like all of a sudden it's like one other guy's like, hey, and then he gets blown away. What is happening?
They were
like,
kind of caught.
How did you miss the explosion? Down. He's like, oh, he's like loading a 6-shooter. And then just as he pulls it up, 18 bullets,
bang, just exploded. The other guy
was very comical.
The guy who invited them to the party, he's got an Uzi and he's like shooting it at the floor. Like he's not even aiming. And it's like, no wonder he got killed. He was trying to shoot their feet out.
Well, I don't know if you noticed some of Roddy's gun holding, but he was like, he's holding like a giant assault rifle. He's basically just spraying it around
like it's a paint can.
Well, he looked like Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies.
Beautiful callback. I wrote in my notes, this is before the time where people had to do gun training before a movie, is what I wrote, because I saw a lot of that. Like he was very nonchalant with his Uzi and his I think he had an M16 or something, but I also thought it was really funny, even though the scene itself was gory and gross and pretty fun to watch. All the people that are dying on the rooftops are all doing like the Wild West, like spinning off the roof onto the ground. And I was like, oh man, this is like, people are dying funny in this movie. So
and nobody who died on a second level died on the second level.
No.
Like they all got shot on the second level and then died on the ground.
On the ground.
Like, everybody's like, well, maybe I'll take somebody out with me if I just
Yeah. That's a good call. It's like the guys from what is it, Fury Road, where they spray the teeth and then they go and commit suicide.
Yeah.
Maybe they were yelling witness as they fell. I didn't catch that, but
could be.
So they're cornered. These two guys, our heroes, they're cornered, and they've got nowhere to go. And Keith David had taken one of the gold watches from one of the aliens at one point, and it's on the fritz at this point. And it's basically saying, like, your watch has been damaged. We're opening a portal. You've only got 5 seconds, and they decide wherever it goes is better than where they are. So they jump in, and they are escorted to the final set piece of the movie, the alien base. So the alien base, they stumble into a banquet hall where basically the aliens are talking to a group of aliens and rich humans who have sided with them about basically their year-end profit margins going up. And they basically say one thing that I thought was really interesting. It said by 2025, they're expecting the entire planet to be converted. So what do you think of that, man? That's kind of a little on the nose right now.
Yeah,
we are
it's kind
5
of getting
years
a little
away.
bit accurate. Yeah.
We're
If one of your hats in your closet is made completely of tinfoil, you're tuned into this music like, I knew it. I knew it. They were saying it in 1988. Roddy Piper probably got killed for it. He was on to them, and they offed him.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. They also mentioned global warming is one of the reasons why the aliens are taking over the planet to like terraform it back to theirs. Yeah, and I thought that was kind of neat for 1988.
Yeah. They
recognize. Yeah, go ahead.
They had some explanations for some stuff. I did pick up on those, and it was like, oh, I guess I could see that.
Was put in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this guy that finds them in the banquet, and he's supposed to be like a friendly face. And I think I'm supposed to care about him and recognize him. And it was really too bad that I didn't. Like, he just didn't make an impression on me, but he was obviously a friend of theirs.
I think it was the construction foreman.
Oh, okay.
That's what I had figured. But again, like, same thing with you.
I can totally see that.
I was like, oh, he knows both of them. Yeah.
So he takes them on a tour of the base. He shows them the teleporter and how the aliens get to and from their home planet, which I thought was kind of neat. And then, of course, the final part of the tour is the signal station. So they've got this radio tower, and this is where they broadcast this thing that cloaks all the aliens' faces and turns them human so that people can't see the true form of them. And at this point, because they know exactly what they need to do, Roddy Piper and Keith David decide to just murder a bunch of aliens and try and destroy the tower. So they grab this guy by the goatee and drag him over to the door to make him open it, which I thought was like, oh my God, that is mean. Guarantee Roddy Piper just did that to the guy without warning him. Too.
Yeah.
That was not in the script.
That
is a Holly Piper.
Chin pubes and let's go.
Yeah. Oh God. Grab them right by the flavor saver. So they fight their way to the roof, and in the process of fighting their way to the roof, they come across Holly. Holly is in the building. She's just back at work, even though there was an explosion 10 minutes ago, and she was really far away. Didn't matter. She was fine. Couldn't have been too far. But she's there, and they grab her because they want to save her, and all of these bad guy soldiers are coming. And they're communicating to each other with some really interesting communication devices. Did you recognize these things, my friend?
Just on the watches, weren't they?
They weren't on watches. These guys were specialized soldiers, and they had like this thing in their hand that lit up.
Security 950. Lock the elevator down. They're on the move.
Oh, okay. No,
it didn't make an impression on you, but it sure made one on me because they are the PKE meters from Ghostbusters.
Oh.
The thing that Egon uses to like notice there's freaking ghosts around.
Yeah, sorry, I did notice that.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, reusing props from an old movie. Classic.
Yeah.
I love it. I didn't hate it, man. I noticed it right away, and it was like one of those things I was like, oh man, I can live with that. So obviously Roddy Piper and Keith David are absolutely amazing at shooting because they've killed a whole bunch of these alien soldiers, and they haven't left a bullet hole in a wall. These are like narrow, office corridors.
Well, the best part about these guys, two things that I noticed about them. Mm-hmm. One is they're supposed to be security at a TV station.
Yes.
And they're in full military fatigues that are gray and white, like they're blending into the gray and white walls.
Background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're quite camouflaged. Yeah. Didn't help them at all.
No. The other thing I noticed was that they only attack in pairs, and they are really, really bad at clearing corners. Like they always just like jump out from a corner
without looking first,
without even having their guns drawn. They just like jump out and they're like, "Hey, there they are!" Boom, 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 boom.
And I'd be okay. I'd be totally okay if they didn't know they were there, because it would be a surprise thing. Like, oh, there's those guys. Who are these guys? And then they get shot. But no, they're literally looking for them. So they have no excuse. Yeah. Oh, someone else who has no excuse for their actions, man. Here it comes. They're just about to get to the roof, and Holly remembers that, by the way, Holly Thompson's her name. She's the only person in the credits that has a full name. Everyone else is not. That's a good sign for a movie on our list where like no one else has a full name. Holly remembers that she is in fact Eva Lynn from Masters of the Universe, and she kills Keith David by shooting him in the back of the head from behind. Darren, she was gold bricking the whole time.
Yeah. I feel like she was probably in on it the whole time. Like just the way she acted through the whole movie.
100%.
Like she was even the reunite with her and Roddy Piper, like just before
Yes.
the wall explodes,
Yes.
is like super awkward, and she almost seems like she's just like trying to feign attraction to him, but
Yes.
she's just like
Play to his ego a
we
bit.
could possibly, and then the wall explodes, and she's like, "Oh, fuck, I'm out."
Kaboom.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
boosting.
gone.
I got work to do.
Yeah, I gotta go
a 9
back to
o'clock
work.
deadline. I'm on a 15-minute break here.
I'll meet you guys at the work. Yeah, okay, perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Keith David. He didn't actually die, but Frank did. So
Right.
yeah, Piper gets to the roof. He's about to shut the whole thing down. Holly is holding them up. She gives him one last chance to join her for some reason. Like you said, like maybe she's toying with him. Maybe she actually got a little crush on the pipes. I don't know. But she's asking him one last time, like, "Hey man, you don't got to do this. I don't have to kill you. You can join me." And meanwhile, there's like all these helicopters flying around with gunmen on them, and they're giving him like an Ed 209 countdown to comply and step down. And he puts his hands up, throws his gun on the ground. But it's a good thing, Darren, he had a secret sleeve gun that he never showed us, and we didn't know was there, because he totally shoots her while the copters and everyone in them don't do anything.
They
Just don't act.
So what I loved about this was the helicopter comes up and they're like, "Drop your weapon," and he's like, "Okay, yeah."
You
he
have
drops his
30
gun.
seconds to comply.
Yeah. He pulls out his gun and he shoots her.
Yes.
She's dead.
Yes.
And then the helicopter like literally has to turn all the way around because the gunman is actually
gunman's
on the
other
other
side.
side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, why
You were
wouldn't
not
you have
ready.
been doing that
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah.
Just hold on a second.
We really expected you to put your gun down.
Yeah. We didn't
We
realize
did
you
not
had that
plan for
sleeve
this.
gun. Sorry. Just hold on. It reminded me of like in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
when
where you
the
swing
first
it.
bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, hold on. He's like, I swear I'm not even doing this. It's on its own.
My time has come. When my crown is reunited with the eternal flame, I shall be restored to my full might. I will tower over the mountains and bury my sword deep in Asgard.
Hang on. Give it a second. I swear, I'm not even moving. It's just doing this on its own.
Coming back around.
So, anyways,
Good call. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So then, what happens after as the helicopter's slowly turning around?
As he's slowly turning around, he shoots his little tiny sleeve gun at this gigantic satellite, and it immediately blows up.
Right.
Because it's filled to the top with kerosene and fireworks.
As all ray
green
guns are. Yeah.
Yeah, and the green stone from Marvel's Avengers or whatever. That's what was powering it. And then the copters actually do get around and shoot him with high-powered assault rifles, which he reacts like he's getting stung by a bee.
Just kind of slowly gets to the ground like, ow. Yeah.
But of course, he accomplishes his mission, as I said earlier. But he's definitely dying. He knows he's dying, but he has enough time to put some sweet middle fingers up in the air and flips the copters, the cops and the bird, before softly going into that good night. We see the signal die, and we are shown several locations that are now contain full color, no shield aliens that are in plain sight, including one that I legit laughed out loud because he's just one alien sitting in a crowded bar full of people, and they all just stop and look at him, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah,
it was great.
I don't even think he really looks at them. He just continues to watch the TV. He's like,
yeah, oh, that's not good.
I didn't realize that. Yeah,
look into that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the scene you mentioned that all 14-year-old boys probably got a major kick out of watching this on a late night cable television show. But yeah, we have a lovely lady who is called Naked Lady in the credits, getting some sweet loving from an alien as the movie ends. And something else that was kind of interesting right before that, there's this alien on a talk show speaking about censorship in movies, saying how like we need to be more censored. These movies are going too far, and they actually literally call out John Romero and John Carpenter as two people who need to just like tone it down a little bit, which I thought was kind of funny.
And then John Carpenter's reaction is to immediately put a giant pair of titties on the screen, which is just so perfect,
front and center.
Yeah,
even though there has been no nudity this entire movie.
They just needed it at some point. So yeah, she's watching the screen and she sees the aliens on the TV and she's like, oh, and then she looked down and there's the alien on, like that's who she's having sex with. And he's like, what's wrong, baby? And then credit.
Hard cut to credits.
So good.
And he's just like, so are we still going to do it? Or
yeah, there's honestly never been a better ending to a movie. I thought that was just perfect.
And of course you loved it. Of course.
Oh, it was just so bad.
The man who loved Rubber also loved naked lady having sex with an alien.
Movies ending like this is exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't argue that point at all. That is a great point you make. All right, buddy. We'll talk about what you thought of the movie, and of course, we'll do our rankings. But before we do, who's your favorite character?
I'm gonna go with Frank.
Frank. Oh, Frank, you're going with Keith David, eh?
Yeah, Frank was good. He was
great.
A couple of his Riker lean, his ability to walk all the way across an entire campground to tell somebody that he's a loner and he doesn't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with his weirdness in the fight with like picks him up and tells him to leave him alone by punching back. He was just great.
He was 100%.
It was unfortunate that they needed to off him at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, neither of them made it out. Your favorite character died, and so did mine.
Yeah.
I have to go with Roddy Piper, man. I have to. He's fantastic in this movie. He plays the character obviously to the best of his ability, and some people trash him for his acting skills, but I just loved him. I loved him as a loner, man. I thought he did a great job as a drifter, and he has said some of the funniest shit I've heard in a movie in a long time. So
he said some ridiculous lines. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
They were there. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite scene? I mean, obviously the fight has to be your favorite.
Oh, fight's favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, for me too. Absolutely. Yeah. My favorite part of the fight is when Pipes Keith David has Pipes in a headlock, and he's got him just got him in a front headlock, and Roddy Piper picks him up, bounces him off a concrete wall, and suplexes him back onto the back of his head onto the concrete,
and
which we didn't even talk about in the movie. And yeah, like it hurts, but no more than the other things they did to each other for 15 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my favorite. I think I know your favorite. 5 unanswered knees to the groin.
Yeah.
Was your favorite for sure.
Without even trying to protect himself with the next one.
Well, his hands were down. Ow. They just were.
He wasn't doing anything to protect himself.
No. Well, I mean, he was in complete pain, man. I don't know. Like you said, he was in fight or flight, and he was frozen. Yeah. Okay, so I have 4 quotes for you to choose from. We've already talked about, I think, all of them, so I'm just going to rifle them off for you in rapid succession. Cool. Quote number 1, one you mentioned earlier, that's like slapping perfume on a pig. Oh, my, that is so mean to say to someone you just met.
Horrible. Even an alien.
Yeah.
Even an alien. You're not even sure if that's an attractive alien.
Come on. Yeah, she could be the whatever, right? She could be the Michelle Pfeiffer of her like alien race. You don't.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Michelle Pfeiffer. That was a weird one.
She's like 70.
That's okay. I'm not an ageist. The second quote is, "Where'd you get those glasses?" And his response was, "Do you remember?"
I don't.
The Tooth Fairy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, quote number 3. He goes, he's talking to the clerk that doesn't like him and wants him to leave the store, but he still talks to him. He's like, you see, I take these glasses off and she's a regular person, and I put them back on and boom, formaldehyde face.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
At number 4, of course, the line that everyone knows if they've ever seen this movie, I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. What's your favorite, buddy? What's your pick?
I gotta go with Chew Gum and Kick Ass.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I couldn't choose
Duke
anything
Nukem
else.
used it, and I loved it when Duke Nukem dropped in the scene and said it. It was so good.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. You like
Such
Duke
a great
Nukem
game.
too?
Of course.
Oh, you like Duke Nukem and Rubber. I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Oh, okay. So, research. I don't have a lot, but I did have some fun stuff. What do you think the budget is for this movie?
I was thinking about that. I think in 1988 that $850,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's what they needed.
Okay, under $1 million is what your guess is. You're off, my friend. It was $4 million. Yeah, John Carpenter got $4 million to do this. I mean, there was a lot of matte paintings to be painted. I think you got $850,000 from matte paintings of billboards saying "obey" and "consume." So you did all right there.
I suppose they needed a lot of scene. They filmed it in LA.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we got $4 million. How much do you think it made?
6.7.
Ooh, that's half of what it made.
Ooh,
so $13 million. Yeah.
Wow.
It made $13 million. It opened at number 1 at the box office opening weekend, and it made back its $4 million. But it got some really bad word of mouth real quick right after that, and theaters immediately pulled it, I guess. So like it made its $4 million in like 3 days, and then it made like nothing else.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just out of theaters, according to a couple of articles I read about They Live at the time. So yeah, so it was like one of these things that became a cult favorite later and was re-released into theaters, and it made its 13 million over like 10 years, but it has made quite a lot of money since then. That fight that we talked about a lot in this movie was originally 20 seconds long in choreography, but because Keith David became such good friends with Roddy Piper, they basically planned the rest of the fight out on their own and just said, we're doing this for 5 or 6 minutes.
Oh my God.
And they rehearsed it for 3 weeks, every day for 3 weeks in basically like John Carpenter's backyard. They just like did it before the shoot. Yeah. So that's pretty funny. All the black and white posters and billboards were matte paintings by a guy by the name of Jim Dansforth. And I only mention that because I absolutely loved them. I thought that was like,
it was cool.
Really well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. Especially for 88. I mean, there's no special effects now that could do it like that and do any better, I don't think. This movie is based on a short story by a guy by the name of Ray Nelson. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's called 8 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you've read it. I'm not sure.
I just saw it on the beginning of this. Yeah.
Yeah. I've read it and I liked it. It was kind of a neat. Yeah. It's a lot like the movie. It has the same kind of feel. It's neat. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Roddy Piper actually. Go ahead.
In the short story.
Yes.
If it's 56 pages long, let's say, are 40 of them the fight scene?
Yeah, 40 of them are just the knee to the crotch. There is actually
another
just pages of that.
I love it. Oh, it just keeps going like this.
And just a crunch sound effect for in between everyone.
See, like two people reading the script, and one is like it's you and I reading the script, and you're like, it just keeps going like this, and I'm like, ooh, there's more.
And I'm flipping like, really? It's 4 more pages of this? So the John Carpenter's original choice to play, obviously Keith David, the part was written for him, but the original person he wanted to play for this movie when he was writing it, he originally pictured, want to guess?
Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, that's
a terrible guess.
That's a terrible guess. Ooh. Well, you could lean into it heavy and just head your bet because it's Kurt Russell. You know, the guy who's in like 4 other movies with John Carpenter.
Right, yeah.
And basically he said, I have to pick someone else because I have too many Kurt Russell movies. I don't want to just work with Kurt Russell. And I guess he went to WrestleMania 3 and saw Roddy Piper perform at WrestleMania 3, which I think was in 88. And he said, okay, that's my guy. So they talked, and Roddy Piper actually had to quit the WWF at that time to do the movie. Because he was obligated to perform all throughout the filming time, and his boss at the time didn't want to give him the time off because he'd invested a large amount of money in him to build him up in a very specific storyline. So basically he said, I'll make a movie and you can be in it and I'll pay you the exact same amount they're saying they'll pay you. And Roddy Piper said, okay, if you can get John Carpenter to direct it, then I'll do it. But I don't think he will. So I quit. And basically that was the end of it. He was gone. So yeah. And he came back later, of course, but yeah, that was, he had to quit to do this movie. So that's kind of awesome.
Isn't it funny how back in like the 80s and 90s and even before that, I suppose, that like companies weren't willing to overlap like that. Like nowadays it'd be like, absolutely, it just gives us more exposure. Back in the day it was like, no, this is ours.
We can pump this up. Yeah. Before the days of the internet, everybody was so worried about their stuff getting out. Yeah. Did you like the movie?
Parts I did.
Okay.
Parts I really didn't. I thought they could have done a much better job of some of the gunfights. Were just horrific. But that
last sequence suffers.
80s. Yeah. So I'm gonna say that this movie gets a 49.
Oh, a fail mark, really?
But
yes.
Then 14-year-old version of myself comes in and is like, we got to give that another 25%. So I'm going to give this a 74.
A 74. Because 14-year-old Darren Terzo loves
like
boobs.
The last 10 seconds of that movie were just fantastic. Like they couldn't have been any better.
I'm just thinking of an episode of How I Met Your Mother where he's literally talking to his 14-year-old self. So it's like, this is you right now. I love it.
Yeah.
I love everything about this. I love this. Man, that's awesome. 74 is your number. I gave it a 76. So we are almost exactly the same. And I think I started at 74 and just bumped it up a little.
Give it an extra. Your 14-year-old version was kind of like on the fence about the titties or what? Yeah, let's give it a 2.
No comment here. I'm going to let you stay as the hands down creep of this episode. But hey, 39-year-old me enjoyed this entire movie, including the ending. Right. So you know what? I'm all right with that. The end sequence is, like you said, it's one of those things you kind of can't unsee the stuff that's gotten so much better since then. But I mean, I love Roddy Piper as a main character. Not all of his one-liners are great. Some of them are like, what? That doesn't make sense. Which, by the way, he pulled out of like a book he had where he like wrote down one-liners as a pro wrestler to kind of say whenever he's getting interviewed, and he just used them for this movie. So that's why you're like, that just came out of nowhere. Well, that's where it came from. And yeah, I have to admit, like I wanted to give it a higher score than 76, but it was too middle of the road for me. It was more middle of the road for me than I wish it was, man. So that's where we're at.
Cool.
Rotten Tomatoes agrees with us for the most part. They gave it an 86 critical response from that's high. I did not think it was going to be that high, mostly because people really enjoyed its political statements. Yeah. Because at the time, Reaganomics was a big thing, and this movie really shined a light on that. In a weird monster movie, they managed to make it about something. Audience response a little lower, 79, but both still higher than us. So this is from Renee Lucas Wayne of Philadelphia Daily News, and the quote is, "This movie is a little bit 1984, and a little bit Rambo, and a little bit WrestleMania, and that's why I liked it." Awesome.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sums it up, buddy. That's They Live.
Cool. What do we got for next week?
All right. We're doing the random number generator here. We're going to find that answer. And, we're going to stay with some fist fights. We have the early 90s Jean-Claude Van Damme classic, Hard Target.
Oh, beautiful.
He does his Cajun accent in that movie. Have you seen this movie before?
I'm sure that I have.
You sure that you have? Excellent.
Yes.
I can't wait to watch it with you, buddy.
It'll be exciting. Yeah.
All right. Well, until then, Darren, you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you again next week.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Roddy, we need your stealth. Go take out the guard real quiet-like, and the rest of us will sneak past.
Gotcha, Hogan. Hey, you f***ing Nazi. How are you?
Hey! Hey! Sprats! Please! Oh! Ah! Yeah! Oh! Yeah!